Hello, everyone, and welcome back. We are on lesson 7 today, continuing to read Anatomy of a Volcanic Eruption. We are almost done with this book with just one more lesson after today. So let's go ahead and jump right in. Our learning intention for today, we are learning to use descriptive details from the text so that way we can better understand the events in the text. One thing that fourth graders really have to work on is making sure that we're using that text evidence, especially in informational text. So we're really going to be focusing on that today. What's happening in this text and what text evidence can I use to help me describe that? So we know we are successful when we can identify those descriptive details in the text and then use those details to describe events. Let's go ahead and move on to our foundational skills. So we have antonyms today, and we know that antonyms are words with opposite meanings. Anyone ever have an opposite day? Right? So as with synonyms, sometimes text use antonyms to help the reader understand the meaning of an unknown or multiple meaning word. So synonyms, remember, are words that mean the same. Antonyms mean the opposite. And antonyms can be found in context clues to help you understand the meaning of a word. So we're going to look at some of those today. So we have the word inhale and exhale. And say you didn't know the meaning of the word exhale. I'm going to give us a sentence here that could help, that we could use a context clue to help us understand that. But for right now, we can see that inhale means to breathe in and exhale means to breathe out. Right? Do you ever use those breathing strategies when you need to calm down? Breathe in and breathe out. Right? So I inhaled deeply and then exhaled to blow out the candles. Ooh. But say, like I said, say if you didn't know what exhaled mean, but you knew what inhaled means. Oh, I inhaled deeply and then exhaled to blow out the candles. So I can get the idea that this is an opposite. And when I blow out the candles, right, you are breathing out. So that's how we can use some context clues and antonyms to help us understand the meaning of words. So another example, the point of Beth's pencil was too dull to write. So she looked for a pencil with a sharp point. So again, they're both talking about the points of the pencils, but one is dull and one is sharp. So if I'm not sure what the word dull means, I can see that there's an antonym. If she doesn't want a dull pencil, she wants a sharp pencil. Oh, well, dull must mean the opposite of sharp. No one likes a dull pencil, right? We like to have a nice point on our pencil. Okay. And so for your foundational skills practice today, it's pretty simple and easy. You are going to circle the antonym for each underlined word and then define the underlined word. So give me the definition. What does it mean? If you're not sure, remember, you can always look it up. Just type the word and the word definition. So like private and definition if you weren't sure, but you should be able to get it with the context clues. So that is what you are going to work on today. For vocabulary, we have the word refuge. And the picture I have is a national wildlife refuge. You can see these around and signs around for them when you're driving, especially on the highways in areas that don't have a lot of people. From the text, it says, insects and snakes are driven from their home on Mount Paley. They find refuge in St. Pierre. About 50 people died from snake bites. What do you think refuge means? It means shelter or protection from danger or distress. So in this case, the insects and snakes had to find refuge from their home. They had to get shelter and be protected from danger from when they normally lived. Or in our picture, we have a national wildlife refuge. That's a place where animals can be protected from danger or from distress. So in today's reading, we are going to read about infamous eruptions. So infamous means like they're so famous, like everyone knows about them. So the first one is Vesuvius, Italy, August 24th to 25th, AD 79. This was a Plinian eruption. And remember, we read about that in the past. And remember, Plinian eruptions are the biggest and the most deadly. And its VEI was 6. And AD 79, if you didn't know, that's a very long time ago. There weren't no cars driving around on the road then. So it says, in southern Italy in the year AD 79, August 24th began just like any other day. By noon, however, the ground began shaking violently. An enormous black cloud rose high in the sky over Mount Vesuvius. 12 p.m. to 3 p.m. Earthquakes are felt in Apollonius, Terzigno, and Pompeii cities south of Vesuvius. Guys, I might have messed up those names, but good readers, sometimes if we mess up a name, then we do our best to sound it out and we keep going. A heavy downfall of tephra begins to descend from the sky. A cloud of ash blocks out the sunlight. People in the Herculaneum see eruption clouds rise above the volcano. Residents rush for shelter. 3 p.m. to sunlight. Frightened residents frantically flee their cities. They try to get as far away from Vesuvius as they can. And then August 25th, AD 79, 1 a.m. to 7:30 a.m. So now we're early in the morning. A series of pyroclastic flows reach the cities of Herculaneum and Pompeii. A lahar covers the Herculaneum, burying it in 75 feet of mud. Pompeii is covered in 10 feet of volcanic ash. There are no survivors in Pompeii or Herculaneum. No one survived. Remember, we said that those Plinian eruptions are the most deadly. And the picture shows us an eruption of Mount Vesuvius in 1906. So this is not the exact same eruption. This is thousands of years later. And then it says Vesuvius today. Could Vesuvius erupt again today? The answer is yes. Vesuvius is still an active volcano and has erupted many times since AD 79. These eruptions haven't been as dramatic as the infamous eruption. The next one, however, could be. More than 3 million people now live in Vesuvius' shadow. There are more people living near Vesuvius than any other volcanic region in the world. If Vesuvius erupted today at the same magnitude as the AD 79 eruption, the results would be catastrophic. Remember, catastrophic means real bad. And then it says, who was Pliny? And we've learned about Pliny a little bit before. Pliny the Elder was a Roman naval commander stationed in the coastal town of Misenum. He saw an unusual cloud forming above Vesuvius and decided to get a closer look. He invited his nephew, known as Pliny the Younger, to come with him. His nephew decided not to go. As he was about to leave, Pliny the Elder received a letter from a wife and a close friend. She lived at the foot of the volcano and needed help. Pliny the Elder wanted to help her, but never arrived. His body was found 2 days later. Pliny the Younger wrote a series of letters that described the events that had occurred. Today, in honor of both Pliny the Elder and Pliny the Younger, the word Plinian is used to describe that type of volcanic eruption. So remember, we had learned from one of our previous lessons that a Plinian eruption was named after Pliny. So let's look at how the text describes the eruption of Mount Vesuvius in AD 79. What happened on August 24th between 12 p.m. and 3 p.m.? So we want to use that text evidence. We're thinking right to our success criteria right away. What details from the text help explain this event? So if I ask what happened between 12 p.m. and 3 p.m., that's the area of text we want to look. So it's in that middle section. So what happened? It says, earthquakes are felt in Apollonius, Terizigno, and Pompeii, cities south of Vesuvius. A heavy downfall of tephra begins to descend on the city. A cloud of ash blocks out the sunlight. People in the Herculaneum see the eruption cloud rise above the volcano, and residents run for shelter. So what are some of the things we could say? A giant ash cloud forms. People run for shelter. The sunlight is blocked out by all the ash in the air. Those are all things that happen. Oh, and there were lots of earthquakes too. And then what happened on August 25th? So we're going to move to the bottom section of the page where it says August 25th, and we can see what happened in the text there, where it says the series of the pyroclastic flows reach the cities of Herculaneum and Pompeii, and those cities are buried. So again, we want to make sure that we are using the text evidence to answer these questions. So now we have Krakatau, Indonesia, August 26th through 27th, 1883. This was an ultra-Plinian eruption at the BEI of 6. So it says, Indonesia is a country in the South Pacific. It is made up of more than 17,000 islands. It is part of the Ring of Fire. There are more volcanoes in Indonesia than any other country on Earth. Wow. Krakatau is an uninhabited island group in Indonesia. Krakatau once contained 3 active volcanoes, Perbuatan, Danan, and Rakata. That is no longer the case, and here's why. In May of 1883, a German warship captain reports a huge cloud of ash and steam rising above the volcano Krakatau, which is also known as Krakatoa. This is the first time the volcano erupts in more than 200 years. June to July of 1883. And notice that this is going by months, y'all. So we had May, now we're in June and July. It says crews on numerous vessels report seeing eruptions. Villagers on Sumatra and Java watch the explosions from their coastlines. Pumice is found floating in the Sunda Strait. And then August 26, 1883. So this started in May, now we're into August. It says Krakatau explodes, propelling a black cloud of volcanic debris 15 miles into the atmosphere. August 27th, 1883, 5:30 a.m. The first of 4 enormous eruptions occurs. The final eruption is so violent that it can be heard a quarter of the way around the world. The island is blown apart. 2/3 of the island collapses into the sea. The collapse creates a wall of water 130 feet tall. Tsunami waves flood many of the islands closest to Krakatau. More than 36,000 people lose their lives. So that's really sad. These are enormous eruptions, and it's causing a lot of death. So it says violent eruption in the yellow box. Krakatau's eruption in 1883 was among the most violent volcanic events in human history. The explosion that destroyed the island was equal to the power of 21,000 atomic bombs. And atomic bombs, guys, are really powerful. And in the green box, it says people often talk about Krakatoa. The eruption blast was so loud it was heard thousands of kilometers away in Central Australia, and it was said to be the loudest noise ever heard by humans. And then a new island at the bottom of the page. On December 29th, 1927, a new island emerges where Perbuatan and Danan volcanoes used to exist. The little volcanic island is named Anak Krakatoa, which means child of Krakatan. Mount Pelly, St. Pierre, Martinique, May 8th, 1902. Pelian Eruption, VEI 4. The city of St. Pierre was located on the Caribbean island of Martinique. In the early 1900s, it was a vibrant French city. Many called it the Paris of the West Indies. Nearly 30,000 people lived in the area. Mount Pelly towered in the distance. The inhabitants of the island knew Mount Pelly was a volcano. They weren't worried because it had not even made a small move since August of 1856. The velvety green Mount Pelly was slumbering. No one ever dreamed that it would awaken again. And it says Mount Pelly's terrible awakening, January 1902. People noticed a sudden increase in the fumarole activity on Mount Pelly. April 1902, so we're talking like 3-4 months later. A great column of steam and ash billows near the volcano's summit. Remember, the summit is the very tallest point. The volcano begins to rumble and shudder. A cloud of sulfurous gas hangs over the town of St. Pierre and falls from the sky. Insects and snakes are driven from their home on Mount Pelly. They find refuge in St. Pierre. About 50 people die from snake bites. The lake in the volcano's crater heats to boiling. So imagine all the snakes, they had to leave their home on the side of the volcano. They end up going into the town and people get bitten. That's bad news. I don't like snakes. And then May 5th, 1902, in the green box. The crater's rim collapses and the lake's boiling water rushes out. It mixes with ash, rocks, and boulders to form a lahar. The mud flow rushes down the side of the mountain, burying everything in its path. When it plunges into the ocean, it causes a tsunami. The low-lying areas of St. Pierre are flooded. People fear for their safety and make plans to flee to the city. The government, however, reports that everything is safe. People are convinced to stay. Many people in the surrounding countryside flock to St. Pierre because they think it's the safest place to be. And then May 8th, 1902 at 7:50 a.m., so just 3 days later, Mount Pelly explodes. A black cloud of Scorching hot gas, ash, and cinders rockets down the volcano's cliffs at 100 miles per hour. In less than 1 minute, the debris strikes St. Pierre with hurricane-force winds. The city is destroyed. The blast also destroys more than 20 ships anchored offshore. Only 2 of the 30,000 people dwelling in the city survive. Imagine that, guys, being one of 2 people to survive. Everyone else is killed in the eruption. So again, that's a really powerful volcano. Descriptive details help us to relate to our senses and help form pictures in our reader's mind. And so we are going to look at some details in the text and think about the sense that it relates to. So remember, our 5 senses are hearing, smell, sight, taste, and touch. So in this passage, we want to think about what are some descriptive details that they gave us to help us really imagine what it was like. So let's see. In southern Italy in the year AD 79, August 24th began like just any other day. By noon, however, the ground began shaking violently. An enormous black cloud rose high in the sky over Mount Vesuvius. So imagine the ground is shaking, 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 shaking. Right? So that is a descriptive detail. The ground is shaking violently. And the sense that that one relates to is touch. Imagine how that would feel in your feet if the ground all of a sudden begins to shake, kind of like the earthquake that we've talked about before. So we can go back to the text and think about some other details. So then it continues in the 12 p.m. to 3 p.m. It says earthquakes are felt in all of those cities. So again, imagine all the shaking. There's earthquakes. That also refers to touch. And then lastly, let's see. There's an enormous, remember that enormous black cloud that we talked about before? We could include that as well from that first paragraph. An enormous black cloud rose high in the sky over Mount Vesuvius. That's sight. What did we see? Black cloud. Again, all these details are helping relate to our senses so we can get a better understanding of the text. So for example, when I'm looking on this page, it tells me that Indonesia is a country. It's telling me where it is, and it's an uninhabited island group. All right, that's okay. Like an uninhabited means that no one lives there. I'm thinking about all of my senses. What do I see, hear, feel, smell, or taste during these times? So it says a German warship captain reports a huge cloud of ash and steam rising above the volcano. So that's a sight detail. And it's telling you what someone actually saw, a huge cloud of steam and ash. And then let's see, what else can we find? Other crews are reporting seeing more volcanoes. So again, more sight details. And then on August 27th of 1883, it says the first of 4 enormous eruptions occur. The final eruption is so violent that it can be heard. So now we have a hearing detail. It can be heard a quarter of the way around the world. The island is blown apart. And then it also had told us in this green box about the sound that they believe that's the loudest sound that humans have ever heard. So again, that's a hearing detail that they give us right there. So I want you to make sure that when you are reading, especially an informational text, that you're paying attention to the descriptive details that the author gives you and think about what sense they are appealing to. So back to our learning intentions for today, let's check in and see how we did. So we're learning to use descriptive details from the text so we can better understand the effects of an event. So we know when we are successful when we can identify descriptive details in the text. So that's what we did by looking at what are some of the details that the author used and also what sense are they appealing to. So again, our hearing, our smell, our taste, touch, and sight. So check. We've got that. We identified those descriptive details. Now let's use those details to describe the effects on an event. So when we think about the sound or the big ash clouds, that's telling us more about the effects of an event, like what actually happened because this volcano exploded. So when the volcanoes explode, we see this big ash cloud. There was a big boom. These are the effects of the event of the volcano's explosion. So that is our second success criteria. Check. For your reading response today, I want you to think about the 3 infamous eruptions that we read about today. And you get a choice and you get to choose which one do you think is the worst. But you do have to make sure that you're using details from the text to support your opinion. So this is your choice today, and there's no right or wrong answer. It's up to you which one do you think is the worst. But be sure to use those details from the text and be thinking about what sense were they appealing to that made you feel like it was the worst one. All right, that is all for today. Have a wonderful day. Be kind to one another. Do all of your assignments, and I will see you guys next time. Bye.